Hey, Squirt! Sorry, was that a nickname or a command? Because I don't have my super soaker on hand at the moment.
Look, it's clear to me that you're new around here. I'd love to offer you some advice.
Oh, advice? Well, I hate to admit it, but I do feel a little out of place here so far, and maybe...
The advice is don't fugue it up, Squirt. Fugin' out.
What does that even mean?
Fugin' out. Ladies, gentlemen, and monsters of all ages,
welcome one and all to my first personal video on the full game that is Monster Hunter Rise on this channel, and oh man, am I so excited to talk to you guys about all of this stuff, and yet somehow I chose my first project to be one where I'm staying as spoiler-free as physically possible. Yes, some of the gameplay may have some attacks that you haven't seen before that you'll notice if you have a particularly keen eye, but especially for the sake of this video, I will stick to fighting creatures that you'll encounter extremely early in your journey within this game. This is going to be a bunch of tips for how to treat your time with this game based on my experience playing through it myself, and hopefully with what I have here, I will be able to help not just people who are new to the Monster Hunter franchise as a whole, but also provide useful information to those of us who have played Monster Hunter games in the past, but are still fresh to the experience that is Monster Hunter Rise in general. So, without further ado, I present to you, ladies and gentlemen, my top 10 tips for new players to Monster Hunter Rise. And not ranked in any particular order, let's begin with number 1. Do Village first. If you are doing your first playthrough with others, then Hub is absolutely a very good option. However, if you are playing solo, then doing Village first is a pretty good idea for multiple reasons. First, it's where the story is of the game. This is where you'll get all the fun cutscenes, the great interactions between characters, and the amazing monster intros. They are so good in Rise. Second, the monster health is literally lower in Village. Village quests are slightly nerfed versions of monsters. However, don't feel as though that cheapens your experience or anything, because if you want to play high rank in the game, you'll have to kill all of them again eventually at full strength anyways. Thirdly, and arguably most importantly, it is worth noting for every single person at the very top of this video that if you finish the Village quest line, you will unlock a quest that jumps you directly up to Hub rank 3, essentially skipping the need to repeat a bunch of low rank monsters that you've already killed for the key quests. I'm not necessarily trying to dictate your experience, but I do want to be sure that you are aware that this is an option. Number 2.
Honey, I'm home!
Honey.
Of all the resources in Monster Hunter, one of the ones most important to your success will be honey. It is used for your main bread and butter healing, the Mega Potion, which, as the name implies, is simply an order of magnitude better than the standard potion. The more honey that you have, the more Mega Potions that you have, the more healing that you can bring with you, and the less you will die as a result. Super important resource. Once you have access to the Buddy Plaza of the village, you will meet Rondine, who runs the Trade Resource Center in Monster Hunter Rise. Her main feature that you'll be using more than likely is trade requests, which I will now be referring to as the Submarine system, because she sends your little buddies off in a submarine and it's real cute and stuff. But back on track, as early as you can, you should hire an extra buddy to do these submarine runs for honey for you, and then try to keep that active in the background of every quest that you do. This way, after a while, you'll have a nice stockpile of honey built up when you get to the monsters that could cause you a little bit more of a problem. Number 3, gather everything. This somewhat lines up with the last one, because anytime you walk past honey on the map during a quest, you should absolutely pick it up. Gathering as a whole is so much faster and easier in Monster Hunter Rise than it has ever been in the series, and you should totally take advantage of that. See a mushroom on the side of the path that you're running down? Grab the mushroom. It may not seem useful now, but it could very well come in handy later down the line. This one goes both for new players to the series and for people who have played other Monster Hunter titles before, but haven't had a fresh save in ages. It can be really easy to not think about gathering for ages, just killing stuff, and then realize later on that you're out of stuff and you could have been having more this whole time. Looking ahead can save you a lot of grief in the future. For those of you with a little bit less patience though, if you mostly focus on grabbing the honey, ore deposits, and bone piles, you'll get most of the stuff that is truly important for increasing your power early on. Number 4.
Request granted.
Do requests. Oftentimes when walking through the village after doing quests, you will see certain NPCs with either yellow speech bubbles or blue speech bubbles above their heads, and you should absolutely go up and talk to them. Not only will you learn a little bit more about their personality and what they do in the village, but they will also give you requests. Some of them to go out and actually do a full-on extra quest and optional quest, but most of them are actually labeled as requests, which you can see from your menu and track. Look away from the screen now if you don't want to see what the actual requests are, but for those of you that are unafraid, this is what they generally look like. And you can do all of these just in the background of quests that you are normally doing. Alright, look back, people who are afraid to see their quests, they're gone now. But the point being, these are all things that you can do during your main quests that change the way that the game is around you. All things that unlock various parts of the game, from more Dango options to more submarines to even full-on weapon designs later in the game, so they are definitely worth keeping an eye on. Number 5... Dango! Speaking of unlocking Dango, your Dango options and combinations can severely change your experience in this game. Personally, I found the best combination of skills to be Booster, Weakener, and Moxie, at least for fighting things that are genuinely threatening. Booster ups your attack a fair amount for the first 10 minutes of the quest, which is a really long time when you think about it. Weakener has a chance to make the large monsters on the quest spawn slightly weaker than average, and Moxie just makes you survive an otherwise lethal hit if you had enough health before it hit you. In other words, if something tries to delete your health bar from half or higher, you'll be fine. Booster you unlock super early on, and it's a great one to take pretty much all the time if you want to kill stuff faster. Weakener and Moxie, however, both come a little bit later down through the story once you kill a couple of creatures who I will not name. Alternatively, on the daily special rotation is a Dango that increases zenny rewards that can be quite helpful to take early on, as zenny is another thing that you may find yourself lacking later on in your playthrough. Number 6, upgrade your armor and weapon. When I say this right now, I mean if you're coming across a monster that is really just handing it to you, absolutely destroying you and ripping you a new one to the point that it feels like the difficulty of the entire game has just jumped massively, it is actually entirely possible that the difficulty of the entire game has jumped massively, and you should maybe take this as a sign that it's time to murder some lovely, wonderful, happy creatures and wear their equipment instead of what you were wearing before. Monsters quite literally do become harder as you go. There's higher tiers of monsters, and as you go through them, they literally do more damage. They have more health, and upgrading your armor and weapons to match them is an important part of the game. You need to upgrade alongside your opponents so that it's still a fair fight. It may seem obvious, but it can be really easy to get caught in the, well, if I just did this slightly better, then I would kill the monster without needing to farm a new armor set. But then what about the monster after that? You know, and the monster after that? You should just farm that armor set. Farm the armor set. If you want to farm the armor set, farm the armor set. In the same vein, make sure you don't hoard your armor spheres for no reason. Armor spheres increase in quality and become more plentiful later in the game. So use the armor spheres that you get early on for the equipment that you use early on. It will save you countless pain in the future, and you won't miss those resources at all in the end of the game. It's much better to have the defense now. Number 7, when you hit high rank, visit the market and purchase yourself the armor and power charms. These are just straight up statistical upgrades available to every hunter in the game if you have them in your item pouch. They are expensive, yeah, but worth every zenny. You only have to buy them once, but once you have them, they will be in your item pouch for literally the entire rest of your playtime with Monster Hunter Rise, or even its expansion. Number 8. When you initially start the game, you are given one Palico and one Palamute. You can choose the style of the Palico, and there are two that I would highly recommend having at the ready for your journey. The Gathering Cat not only does a great job gathering materials on the map for you, but also will take bits and pieces from the monsters that you are fighting. Josh has even had a full-on gem drop from his Gathering Palico already, so it definitely happens, people. It's worth having around. Alternatively, if you are looking for more of a support role from your Palico, something a bit more useful to the actual success of the hunt, the Healing Palico has quite a lot to offer, mostly in that it offers you the ability to be far more aggressive against your target, knowing that you have some healing coming in the background. Past this, you should also equip buddy skills at the buddy board. Each of your buddies can have their own unique set of skills that upgrades as they level up. Make sure you at least equip some of these, as by default they aren't set, and with nothing set, you're just literally weaker than you otherwise would be, so go out of your way to set this up when you notice. Number 9. As you get closer to the end of the story, or even finish the story itself, you may start to notice more and more interesting armor skills start to appear. Things that may appear a bit niche at a glance, but as you look into them more, well, the synergy options in this game are unbelievable, diverse. To put it simply, this Monster Hunter game, more than any other before, has the potential for these unbelievably diverse and intriguing builds, multiple playstyles for every weapon, all balanced surprisingly close to each other. If you enjoy the combat of Monster Hunter games and have never really dipped your toes into set building before too deeply, Rise is going to be a great time to get into it. Sure, you can just go straight for attack up and affinity, but there are just some really interesting things that you can dive into this time around depending on your weapon of choice. Keep your mind open and be willing to try things that you may not have previously. And finally, and honestly most importantly by a mile, number 10. Slow down. Stop rushing. Enjoy yourself. Explore. I love games with rich exploration, incredibly in-depth environments, hidden little lore tidbits, and just crazy movement systems. Rise has all of this and more. There is so much passion and detail just put into every inch of this game. The exploration is better than it has ever been. These maps have more interesting things going on in them than any of the maps in previous Monster Hunter games, at least in my opinion, especially with all of our fancy movement, and they've even created these tiny little paths that are less like shortcuts and more almost like racetracks that you can follow to get from one side of the map to the other incredibly quickly if you know where you're going, and I just absolutely adore the way that they've built this. So yeah, take your time, smell the roses. You only have your first playthrough of a game happen one time, once. You only get to experience all of this for the first time, this time. So make the most of it, make it count, enjoy yourself, get lost in this wonderful world we've been given, and most importantly, have fun. Because that's what it's all about at the end of the day, guys. It's all about fun, and Monster Hunter Rise is just so full of fun. Alright everyone, I've been Cotton Dinosaur, and this has been my top 10 tips for new players to Monster Hunter Rise, both for returning players to the series and those who are fresh to Monster Hunter as a whole. Will any of my tips help you at all? Do you have any tips of your own for other people playing the game right now? Like if you like the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet. Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world our stage. Goodbye.